No tenemos duda de que vamos a tener este sistema sobre Puerto Rico. Que se están haciendo a través de las redes.
We had just gone through Hurricane Irma, so we had provisions. We were almost ready. I had done the research on our house. Our house was built in the mid 50s using a mix of concrete, gravel, and sand. And from what I gathered, from the information that I got, was that the house was made in one piece. Like there are no blocks, no cinder blocks, no bricks. The outer walls were built at once. They just poured the concrete, and it hardened so strong enough to withstand hurricanes, earthquakes. Well, we have 5 kids. They're all adults now, but back then they were teenagers, and it's not easy. Our house is in San Juan. I also checked if our neighborhood was prone to flooding, and it wasn't. Our street is not leveled, so the water goes down, and you can see it every time it rains. And the surroundings of the house, just as every other house here, it's also with a little bit of tilt, to the street. So the water, when it rains, it just comes out naturally and onto the street, and then go down to wherever the water goes. We had food, we had water, we had over-the-counter medicines, whatever we needed. We had my mom with us. My dad was in Utuado. He didn't want to come. So my mom lived in an area where it was prone to flooding. So we brought her in. Irma was just a few days before. And that actually kind of helped us that it was back to back, pretty much. Irma wasn't a big hurricane here. We were out of electricity for a few days. And that's always hard, especially when you have kids. There was no school, and even if there was, we always made decisions for our family that would benefit our families, just as we did later during the COVID times. We made decisions based on our family and not necessarily what the government tells you to do, although we try to follow and be careful every time, we're in a situation like that. So then they announced Maria. And I had just sealed the roof, so the rain, if it was too much rain, it wouldn't get through. So I thought we were ready. Well, as ready as you can be for a hurricane. Good thing about hurricanes is that you can see where they're coming. You know, you can see it on TV, and you can get prepared, or as prepared as you can be. The day right before the hurricane, or the hours before the hurricane, something changes in the atmosphere, in the ambience. Everything gets calmed and quiet, as if nature knew, which I'm sure it does know, but it's different. It's like, slow down, something's coming. And sure enough, that day, that night, Hurricane Maria was here. Have I been through other hurricanes in my life? Yeah, definitely. Um, I have far away recollections of tropical storms back when I was a little kid. But then one of the biggest one was Hurricane Hugo. It said it was coming really strong, and we were ready. At the time, I was living in Utuado, and Hugo came in, and in Utuado, or the central mountain area, or at least where I lived, it didn't cause major problems. I hear, and I heard on the news that in the east and the metro area, it was hard. And then later, when my wife and I were talking or talked about different storms and hurricanes, she told me it was bad for them. After that, in the mid 90s, I think Marilyn, Lewis, Hortensia, all of those. That was right before I left for New Orleans. And then, of course, I moved to New Orleans, and there are hurricanes there too. I mean, it's crazy, right? And my son was born in 1998. So I wanted to bring him to Puerto Rico. I wanted my parents and my family to meet my son. So we come here. We come to Puerto Rico around September 1998. And I remember I was sitting at the chart house. I used to work at the chart house when I was living in San Juan, right before I went to New Orleans. Matter of fact, I took a transfer from the chart house in San Juan to the chart house in New Orleans. And I was sitting at the bar, I was, I don't know, 20, 22 years old. I was sitting at the bar and I looked at the TV and they were talking about a possible hurricane. I said, "Well, that'd be rough if a hurricane hit us right when we were on Puerto Rico during, a little vacation to bring my kid for my family to meet, right?" And well, it did come. That was George. Well, like I said before, we were ready because of Hurricane Irma, and we're always. I realize that you're never ready, right? So when I say that we prepared, that we were ready, that as ready as you can be, because there's no readiness. I mean, there isn't. You can do so much, and you do your part and put it in the hands of God. So every year at the beginning of the season, of the hurricane season, around June, mid-June, we already have stuff around the house. Every time I go to the store, if I need one can of beans, I buy two. If I see a pack of matches, I get it. And slowly but surely, we keep, adding to the necessities. And I mean, when you have 5 kids, you have to prepare. If you don't prepare, when you have family, when you have a wife, when you have a husband, when you have kids, no matter how many. I mean, but it makes it even more difficult when you have 5 kids, right? It's not like you can go to the store at the end like most people do, and sometimes stores have a limit by then. So if you needed 10 gallons of water and they only let you buy two, what do you do? What do you do if you're not ready? So you keep water. Every time you go to the store and you buy a gallon of water, what's that? $1? I mean, it's not as hard when you do it throughout the year, right? It's easier on the pocket, and it's easier on the rush of, when everybody's going crazy, because everybody goes crazy. Most people leave everything for the last moment, and that's a dangerous moment to leave things to get, that's a dangerous moment to get ready. So, we were as ready as we could be. We had just prepared the windows from the inside and from the outside. We covered them with plywood. And then on the inside, I put 2x4s crossed, because we have the windows that are, the Miami windows or the hurricane windows. So I put 2x4s on the inside. That way, if the wind blew the plywood, I don't know, if the wind blew the plywood from the outside, the wind couldn't open the window still. My wife gave the kids, those sleeping pills, so they relax and slow down and don't get scared through the night. Because Hurricane Maria arrived in the middle of the night. can't see anything. All you do is hear. And that was the moment during the storm that impacted me. I mean, I was trying to be strong. I had my kids, I had my wife, and on top of that, I had my mother. It's a lot of responsibilities. And the sounds, that's crazy. That's when I knew. I mean, you would hear things fall on the outside, crack, break. The wind would whistle. I think that was the point that most impacted me through the storm. Well, the next morning, or when we were able to get out, because we were always peeking through the windows, right? But when we got out to the street, we had a tree, a flamboyant tree. There was no structural damage to the house. We looked everywhere. There was some water leaking, of course, normal. I mean, through a hurricane like that, that's normal. I mean, it wasn't like it was leaking through the roof. It was leaking through the windows. At some point, it started leaking because, the wind was so strong. It would open sometimes we would open the window and then water would come through. But when it all ended, I checked the surroundings and I saw some trees on the street behind us that weren't there anymore. Yeah, but I looked at all the houses. Now I looked at our house, and wow, the wall still standing. And I said, "Thank God, nothing happened." I was so happy nothing happened. So maybe what I was hearing through the night was stuff getting thrown around, right? So I walked down the street. We checked on our neighbors, and they were pretty much thinking the same thing. And then my kids and I, we started walking through other blocks down the neighborhood. So then I started driving. I wanted to look around. Yeah, that was another thing. Something different completely. It was the end of the world. I saw cars flipped over. I mean, not thrown to the wall, flipped over. I saw roofs gone. I saw houses gone. I saw electric cables down all over the streets. I saw people coming out of their houses like, what happened?
Miles de personas se quedaron sin casas.
And then we didn't have any power. So I turned on the battery radio. We had an old radio that my wife's grandfather gave us. And I was looking at the stations, whatever we could get, whatever information we could get. My wife and I were working, we still are, at a company that offers hospitality staffing, right? For different hotels, even the convention center. And then the convention center became the headquarters for local, state, and national government. So at the time I was working at Utuado.com, which is a news outlet, a digital news outlet I created back in 2010. So I felt an obligation, I needed to report. So in the press area, in the convention center, I had my own desk and I was able to interview a lot of people. I was able to interview mayors.
Estamos en el Centro de Convenciones de Puerto Rico y estoy aquí con el alcalde Néstor Izarizarba de Utuado, que llegó hasta el centro de mando.
And I was able to interview the chief of staff for the governor.
Estoy aquí con el secretario de la Gobernación, el utuadeño William Villafañe, quien ayer estuvo en Utuado, específicamente en el barrio Don Alonso de Utuado, donde pudo percibir cómo está la situación en los barrios de Utuado. Secretario.
I was able to participate in the press conferences.
Buenas tardes, gobernador. Yo cubro, mi medio es del área central, Utuado, Jayuya, Junta, Lares. Ayer yo entrevisté a varios alcaldes y al representante y me comentaron de varias situaciones en esos municipios. Por ejemplo, en Utuado, en la escuela Marta La Fontaine en Caunilla, esos refugiados no tienen acceso ni por aire ni por carretera y les falta agua y les falta comida. Jayuya está completamente incomunicado. El alcalde de Adjuntas me dijo que no tienen agua y no tienen comida. Y también la situación del cementerio de Lares, que me reportó el municipio, que tienen sobre 3.000 cadáveres en las calles de Lares, y esos cadáveres van a llegar al río Oaxaca y posiblemente al área de la represa en Oaxaca. ¿Qué acción se está tomando y qué usted espera que se resuelva? Porque es una situación bastante grave.
No, es una situación grave y crítica. Yo desconocía de la misma hasta que usted me la ha planteado ahora, la de Lares. Sí sabía la de Jayuyas. Les puedo informar que ya fue un esfuerzo, ¿verdad? Tanto el presidente de Acueductos como el secretario de la Gobernación fueron a Jayuyas para poder comenzar a establecer recursos. De la misma forma, en Adjuntas se están llevando recursos adicionales. El alcalde llegó aquí, me parece que fue ayer, y nos alertó a la situación. Yo sobrevolé ambos pueblos y pude ver la devastación, así que hemos tomado acción sobre ello. ¿Verdad? Particularmente la escuela que usted dice en Utuado, que se
Marta La Fontaine. Marta La Fontaine en el barrio Caunillas.
Ok, pues sobre ese particular, son las comunidades que estamos identificando, que tenemos que desalojar, ¿verdad? Hacer los vuelos de rescate, o tenemos que llevar comida y agua, ¿verdad? Son unas situaciones particulares que se están manejando ahora, y el equipo de trabajo, a la medida que van recibiendo esa información, están destinando recursos y helicópteros para poder ir y rescatar o llevar comida y agua para ellos. Gracias por alertarnos a la situación del área.
And I was able to contribute with fresh news, different news from the center of the island. Because even though I was in San Juan at the convention center, I had my contacts in Utuado, and I would get pictures and videos and information. And then I drove to Utuado, and it was rough. That day, I drove by myself. I didn't take my wife. I didn't know when I was coming back. Those days you had no communication, no cell phone. So it was, a little bit rough. I told my wife, once they opened the roads, I drove right away. I wanted to see my dad. And
mucha planificación, que
I
si
did.
vamos a hacer esto, vamos a hacer lo otro, pero
And the landscape
no vemos
was
los resultados.
extremely different. It was like as if a bomb just exploded in Puerto Rico. Everything was like burnt. No leaves. No vegetation.
¿Qué nos puede hablar? ¿Al agua? ¿Qué está sucediendo aquí con el agua?
Desconozco el acueducto quedó detrás de la manga, pero no, estamos aquí en espera.
O sea que ni siquiera para la Guardia Nacional ha llegado agua aquí en Utuado.
No, estamos dando el servicio. A los refugios y a la agencia de gobierno.
Well, I feel lucky. And I'm grateful for that. So I even feel guilty about talking about this. My house was there. We had jobs. Our kids were good. I saw my dad, he was good. Our house in Utuado was still there. It's still there. My wife was good. My mom was good. My mom's apartment in San Juan didn't suffer any damages either. The hardest part would have been the electricity. No electricity. But that was peaches and cream compared to most everybody in Puerto Rico, especially the people from Utuado, the people from the center of the island. I remember at work, we received people that lost it all, our staff. There was no communications with anybody. And people up in the States were thinking everybody got destroyed, which in kind of a way we were. We had life, and that was really something big. But the electricity thing was so hard that then we decided to send our kids to the States with relatives. And then my wife and I would get up at 6 in the morning, be at work at 7, get out at 7 p.m., come back. We were grateful enough to be working at a place where we had food, we had ice, and that was the center. That was the headquarters for the U.S. Army, for the National Guard, for the federal government, for the state government, for the local government. So we were able to bring home ice. We were able to bring home water. We were able to bring home food. We were able to eat at work. We had food here because, like I told you, we got prepared. However, being here wasn't comfortable. And again, I say this with the most respect for everybody else, because compared to a lot of people, we were living the dream. So yeah, it was rough. And for us, that was the hardest part. Well, Puerto Ricans are, in general, good people. And we go through this a lot. We don't go through hurricanes like Maria, but every year we get hit by something. And people come together. We were able to participate in coordinating, bringing food and medicines and supplies. So I'm proud of that too. My wife, she's an event coordinator. So she coordinates. She was able to gather a lot of people, and she knows people with resources, and we were able to bring help to communities like in Paso Palma and Utuado, And I say this with a lot of respect. And of course, we weren't the only ones. Sometimes there were people. I mean, Utuado was in bad shape. Utuado was in such a bad shape today in 2025. There are still areas that are still suffering from things that happened in Hurricane Maria. That's how bad Utuado was. And there was a lot of help pouring in from all over, from all over the world to Utuado. And because at work I think I was pretty much the only one from Utuado. Well, people would ask. And I mean, when other people want to help and you're the link, well, you want to do everything you can. I have a few friends that started sending help, you know. They started sending me packages, me and my wife. So the kids weren't here, but we were receiving a lot of kits, like emergency lights, batteries, water filters. Now I have a friend that I've known since '96, because we used to work together at the chart house in San Juan and then in New Orleans. Her name is Wendy, and well, she wow. She started sending packages that she would get from her friends, from people at work. They started sending stuff, right? She's like, use and give away. So we did. Well, Hurricane Maria changed Puerto Rico. People came together. Obviously, the government can't handle everything at once. I know that. So everybody had to do their part. And I think we were changed in a way that nothing else could have. But we're still standing. The one lesson is to be as prepared as you can. And because when you prepare yourself, you are also getting ready to help. When you leave everything for the last moment, when you don't take care of yourself, you're not taking care of anybody. It's like in the airplanes. You go into an airplane and they tell you that if the little mask comes down, no matter who you have next to you, your wife, your father, your husband, your mother, your son, your baby boy, your baby girl, your whatever, who puts the mask on first? You put it on, because it's the only way that if you're good and you're ready, you can help somebody else. If you don't put your mask on first, you won't be able to do it to somebody else. There's a high risk of both of you dying or not making it, you know? So you got to be ready for you, for your family, and for your neighborhood. I don't know what else. I don't know how else to say it. And it became so true. We weren't You know, we didn't have to get out for provisions for about 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, it's not like we had it all and everything and we were, living the luxurious life. We were rationing food for my family, right? We had schedules. My wife made schedules. Like I said, she's a coordinator. She coordinates, you know. I think we make a really good team. And uh, even our kids who are adults now do not know or may not know everything we had to do in order to make it easier for them. But the one lesson that I knew, the one lesson that I will carry forever is that you need to be ready. You need to be prepared. You need to be good. You need to be in a position. You got to put yourself in a position that you are able to help others. That's the one lesson. Be ready.